Jim, how you doing today?
I think it should be all wrestling all the time.
It is.
Sort of is.
It is in my life.
Live, local, and leg-breaking, all wrestling all the time. Hey, guys, how are you?
We're doing really good.
What's crazier than normal? I'm behind on things.
No, just so much stuff. I mean, between, the introduction of ECW, which I know you never watch, and did you hear about Dave Bautista, which we haven't talked about? Dave Bautista and the Big Show on Monday. Actually, I know that you have talked about that for a second, but did you hear all about how that thing went?
No, I saw the first match in 2001. I haven't seen one since.
Oh, that's right, because they wrestled for you at OVW. Okay, so the fans turned on this match before it started, and then and decided beforehand that this was going to be the worst match of all time, and then the two combatants went out there and did everything in their power to prove the fans correct. So I think that's the best description of that match. I mean, it was just ungodly bad. And when they came back from a station break, you hear this crowd in New York, and they're chanting, "Change the channel." Loud. Okay? Now they're chanting, and now here's the funniest part. If you're watching the show, you know there's a chant going on, and you know it's negative because every chant from "you can't wrestle" to, from the start of the match, there's been one negative chant after another about how bad this match is. But to change the channel, I didn't actually know what they were saying. So leave it to Taz to go, by the way, they're change the channel. And I thought, this is just great.
He goes, why are they saying change the channel?
Oh, that's classic.
And then they're going like, the fans are chanting boring, and this is not a boring match.
I've got to have somebody start taping me a blooper reel of stuff they broadcast on Raw and SmackDown that I would enjoy seeing.
It'd be 5 hours long every week.
Well, I mean, the thing that you would have loved is the Ric Flair Mick Foley segment on Monday, because that was actually one of the best segments of the year. Maybe of all time. I don't know.
Of all time.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was an incredible segment going back and forth. But, I mean, as far as the week in WWE, boy, after that, I'm trying to think of a highlight. I mean, there was 5 minutes of Finlay and Regal that were real good, but, it's not like anyone in the crowd noticed. And, but it was really good. And I saw some women get pies thrown in their face. What else was on TV in WWE this week, Brian?
Absolutely nothing of value. The Foley, you mentioned the Foley Flair thing, and I actually did think that it was one of the best segments I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it's one of those days where Flair actually got to talk, and for all I know, he may have hijacked the mic to talk longer. and he was just fantastic. And I pictured it being one of those days where somebody in the back just went, I never knew that guy could do an interview like that.
Yeah, it's probably a revelation now.
Yeah.
They'll do market research on it.
Well, one of the things, and I don't know if you know this story, Jim, but a couple of weeks ago he did a taped interview where he mentioned, Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen and some people like that. And, Brian Gewirtz was, listening and just, I don't know who you're talking about, and they never played the tape. And people were raving to me about this great interview. So, I guess he was sitting there because the minute he got the mic, he did that interview. Mm-hmm. On live TV, and he's talking about these people. And, I mean, the fans in New York, they don't know, but he sure given a good speech just going like, these guys.
At least it means something.
What meant something was how Mick Foley reacted to him. And kind of how he reacted to Mick Foley, and they should have taken that clip. In fact, they need to take that segment and put it in a time capsule, and every one of the guys who they train, instead of training them on moves, not that there's anything wrong with training them on moves, because you have to do that, but instead of, and training them on how to, go to the gym and, go, train without steroids and all that other stuff, they need to teach them, because if any young wrestler sees that and can perform what those two did as well as they did, they will be a main eventer for years.
Oh, if you show the guys in training anything about how to do this stuff right, you'll get big heat. Trust me, I can tell you.
I think they need to put a bunch of those interviews, just, put them on the DVD releases.
Oh, there's no way.
They're always extras and everything like that, but... just put them on there.
I mean, I was actually talking earlier. It would have been Tuesday morning, I think, I emailed Les Thatcher, and it was, you know, every now and then when there's a segment like that, and you just go like, there it is. That's what it is, and then and then you never see it again.
Yep.
Well, I think they more or less have to run out of ideas for either one of those guys and just say, okay, just do what you want.
Well, pretty much that's what it was, because I know it wasn't scripted and nobody knew where they were going. Other than, you know, they probably did. And
and the best thing for everybody else was that they didn't tell anybody, or they would have stopped them probably from doing it.
I know. I mean, it went, you know, there were points in there where I didn't even know, like, why they were going in that direction. And Mick Foley even got in, like, you know, his social causes that, you know, that women aren't sex objects even when they look like them. And I mean, it was just hilarious the way he snuck that one in, but, oh boy, it was tremendous. And I can't say that about, a lot, I don't know. I mean,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the crowd, you know, the crowd in New York was really interesting because they loved the first 45 minutes of ECW and hated the last 15, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it depends on who you talk to, because I think there was a very split reaction as to...
we're at 750, I guess, then, with that.
Yeah, because, I mean, they treated CM Punk like he was, you know, the debut of Jack Briscoe, you know what I mean? Like the greatest wrestler who ever came along, and so, therefore, on television, you know, he looked like he was really good. So, anyway, that's the deal there.
Hey, can I plug where I'm supposed to be over the next few weeks?
Go ahead. Go ahead and do that.
Of course, August 11th, 12th, and 13th, Rockville, Maryland, the Doubletree Hotel for the Capital Wrestling Legends Fan Fest.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Superstar Billy Graham, Bret Hart's going to be there, me, Bobby Heenan, all the members of the Midnight Express, like 30 guys, Nick Bockwinkel, Ernie Ladd I saw on the list, you know, so a lot of names there, and autographs, all that good type of stuff. And August 26th, I'll be back in Chicago for Ring of Honor, and September 16th, the debut at the Manhattan Center. I will be in New York City for the first time ever, and hopefully the last time for Ring of Honor. Sorry, New York, but, you know, and, of course, ongoing cameo appearances with TNA, and coming soon to an arena near you with the Midnight Express every once in a while. Otherwise, I try not to leave the house. Hopefully, everybody that's paying me is now happy.
Okay. So? Okay, you've been to TNA a couple times now, including the last TV tapings, and what's your thoughts on everything?
That's a loaded question. I really like the production. I like the talent. I like the environment of being different. It's an alternative. There's nothing on TNA that just makes you cringe like those incessant segments that go on forever with the bad comedy or the divas or the penis enlargement delivery, whatever. Nothing's really going to slap you in the face. and the young guys get a bigger chance to get over. America's Most Wanted, Samoa Joe, Rhino, etc., etc. Styles and Daniels are tremendous. Abyss, I'm a big fan of. So I think that's it makes it an alternative. It's more wrestling-oriented, and at the same time you get a chance to see different talent actually do something important. So I've enjoyed it.
Okay. We are going to go and talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame. And do you have your ballot in front of you, by the way? Or are you going to win this one?
Of course not. I already sent it back to you, and I forgot to make a copy of it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm totally blind here.
Okay, well, we can talk about different things. But I guess first name first we'll talk about is Arn Anderson, and your thoughts on him.
Well, you know, see, here's the thing. Arn is a Hall of Fame caliber performer, but this is the issue we've had with Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch always being that borderline guy that was the great worker that was worked numerous territories and always had a great match, etc., and could talk and could work. But if he's not in, Arn Anderson to me is the next decade version of him. He was a great performer who always got over, could talk, was the basis of the Horsemen, but never headlined on his own. And so as much as I love Double A, it's the Murdoch principle to me. If you can't justify Murdoch, you can't justify Arn.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. What do you think?
Can you justify Murdoch?
I quit voting for him after 3 years in a row because I figured he's never going to get in, and now I'm campaigning for the analysis of it. I mean, what do you think? The Hall of Fame is about being a great performer, drawing money more than in a fluke, and having great historical potential or impact or something special. And those guys, they did it. They drew money in wrestling territories. Murdoch did in the 70s, but I don't know.
I have voted for Dick Murdoch every year. And it's for the reasons that you said, and also to me, one of the biggest things is I've heard so many guys talk about what a huge influence Dick Murdoch was on them, and it's just one of those things where when you hear so many guys say that, to me, it's hard not to vote him into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I know, and what I did this year was I quit using my Murdoch vote to vote for somebody else that's not going to get in either.
Well, Murdoch, to be honest, I think that Murdoch. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't think there's one sure on this year's ballot. Unlike in the past, I don't think there's one sure thing or even one guy who I would say is 60% going to get in. But I think that of the guys,
I up on him this year because I figured it's never going to happen. And it's just like some of the tag teams. I know maybe the Andersons and maybe the Midnight or the Rock and Roll, whoever's never going to make it. But you got to vote for them in my mind because they were so influential in a big part of the business.
Mm.
But, maybe after a few years I'll quit and start throwing them at somebody else.
Okay. Now, as far as, Gene and Ole, thoughts on Gene and Ole?
Well, I mean, once again, they headlined a pretty significant territory for years. The Carolinas wasn't of the magnitude it was in the late 70s and 80s, under George Scott, etc. But still, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, wrestling territory, they headlined for long periods of time. They had great matches. They were good performers. And a lot of tag teams copied or were influenced by them. So, to me, I think that means they go in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. What about the Assassins?
Maybe not so much. But kind of sort of in the same vein, but I don't know that they had the track record in the Carolinas that the Andersons did. They were big in Georgia, a smaller place, but, once again, they weren't noted as being great individual performers. Part of that was probably the mask. Because at the time, nobody really knew that the Assassins were Jody Hamilton and Tom Ernesto. So they never really got a reputation like Gene and Ole as individuals. I think it was more and there were 20 million Assassin ripoffs.
Yeah, no. The one thing that I always loved, and I guess this goes with, and we talked about this last week, with both Ole Anderson and Jody Hamilton, is I love those guys as heel interviews. I mean, they almost couldn't be baby faces because they were just so freaking sinister.
Yeah, and totally believable and kind of scary because they were that mean.
Yeah.
For that time on television, nobody talked like that.
Yeah. Jim, you know about Hulk Hogan?
Oh, tell me. See, you know what? I don't watch. I'm on a 12-step program, but I'll live vicariously through you guys.
Hulk Hogan, knee injury right before SummerSlam.
Oh.
Touch and go whether he will be wrestling Randy Orton at SummerSlam or not. He will decide in midweek.
Did he fall working out on the farm and Lassie went and got Timmy and Ralph, what is it? Down the wall?
You know what's scary? You know how he got hurt?
He stood up.
He stood up from his couch.
Oh my God!
And his good knee went out.
Well, I can sympathize with something like that.
I know. Then again, now you weren't in the main event, but I remember I saw you blow your knee out in let me get the city right, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, coming off the apron.
Oh yeah,
the night before pay-per-view.
I dangerously in the pay-per-view tuxedo first ever singles match between the two of us non-working old women.
That's right. And you wrestled Paul Heyman the next night, and it really wasn't that bad. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, because the leg I couldn't. It was so swollen up my knee I couldn't bend it. I strapped the knee brace on it, and I told him for 2 hours before the thing, throw powder in my face, blind me, and whack my knee with the phone. Right? We're sitting there talking for 2 hours. We get in the ring. I go down. I'm blind from the powder. I lay my leg out. He starts beating the wrong leg with the phone. And I'm screaming, other leg. Oh, my God, it was a nightmare. So we got through with it.
I want to ask you about one person really quick, which has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. In fact, the farthest thing from it. Why don't you tell everybody about Linda Miles?
Oh, my God. Well, this woman, she was a fairly competent basketball player in Ohio somewhere, right?
She was from Ohio, but she went to Rutgers, and which was a
well, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
The point is, at some level of competence, she played high school and college women's basketball, a good athlete, and just we put her in class, and could not get this at all. And so at one point, I put her on television against Jillian Hall, who was probably my best girl at the time, and it was so bad that I just spliced in a recap from last week of something over the top of it, wouldn't air it. And she insisted on me blaming Jillian as well, which was like blaming the guy that's walking down the sidewalk when a safe falls on his head. So then I leave her off TV for like 6 months. And then if they want to see her, I like, she sucks. But okay, I'll put her on. Mickey James, my best girl at that time, right? They had a match that was so bad it hurt the fans' feelings. The people started bringing last week's tickets back. Please refund this, right? It was worse than the previous match. And she didn't even stop. On the way back, she stopped and asked Alexis if she was okay, grabbed her bag, turned right, and we never saw her again. She just quit, which was the best thing. It was a kindness to the business.
As somebody who trained a lot of people, obviously in Ohio Valley, did you ever have anyone sort of like her where just for months and maybe even years, just they were horrible, and then one day it just clicked?
No. No, the thing is, if they're just rotten to the core, I mean, just out and out, stink down the street rotten, they're always going to be rotten. They can't get it. You can tell some people are bad with 2 left feet, like a puppy with big paws, and clumsy, but you can tell they have something about them that grasps what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
But, they've always got something if they develop in any way. But no, the ones that are really stinky bad, you can smell them coming down the street, and they always stay bad.
Okay, anyway, we're going to go back to Hall of Fame mentions, and I want to ask you, and again, this is someone who, I mean, I'm not sure how much you would have seen of him, because he was actually more my side of the country, Red Bastien.
Actually, I did see Red Bastien some when I was a very little kid, because he worked for the Sheik out of Detroit and the Cincinnati TV. But, not enough to really form an opinion. I know he's well respected. I know his peers think a lot of him, but I never actually, as a performer, got a chance to see enough of him to really be, versed in his career.
Okay. Carlos Colon.
Everybody's seen the tapes of the baseball stadium shows in the 80s. Well, I say everybody now. I've just dated myself really badly, haven't I? When we grew up, you and I and Brian, everybody had seen that stuff. He was a better worker when he was younger, but he was never great, but he filled up baseball stadiums and was on top in an island for 25 years. I think he's got to be in.
Okay.
I can't see how, he's a junior El Santo.
It's funny, J.J. Dillon kind of made that same comparison. But I don't know, for some reason, I mean, I see El Santo at a certain level, and I don't know that, but I know on the island he is, he's, if you mention wrestling.
Really, it's a smaller culture, but it's kind of the same gist. I mean, a lot of people on that island grew up with him.
Yeah. He was a local hero for a long time. Is there anyone that pops into your head that you think should be in the Hall of Fame? I mean, not someone on the ballot, but someone like, a historical person that's overlooked, or even someone that you just feel is overlooked for some reason?
There's so many names I haven't been able to keep up with it. Nobody jumps out at me.
Okay.
Because you were so well spread out with the initial lineup.
Yeah.
You really hit all the major geographic regions, and air is good. I'll tell you one thing, Moolah. Mm-hmm. And I know people go, but the thing is, if there's a woman from the United States in the Hall of Fame besides Mildred Burke, it has to be Moolah, or there can't be any other women. Well,
that's true.
It just, it wouldn't make sense. It's like the WWF Hall of Fame without Bruno.
Which is...
oh, gosh, I'm sorry. But, so anyway, something like that, and I know people will go, oh, gosh, but it's true.
Yeah. Eddie Guerrero.
I almost think it's too soon to do something like that, because I think then Do people want to know that he got voted in because he was a great performer and worked all over the world and et cetera, and did headline as WWE champion, or is it still because it's too soon and he's a sympathy vote? Would he rather have earned it later, just a little colder?
I don't know. See, to me, I had already voted for him for the last 2 years, so I can't not vote for him now.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You know, and I mean, to me, for him, you know, knowing what I know about WWE and how they think, you know, for him to get over to the level that he did without much help, and for them to actually figure it out at some point, even though, granted, it took 6 months of beating him over the head with it before, you know, they figured, this guy, you know, can draw, and then, you know, but I mean, the fact that he got to where he did, I think, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, he needs to be in, and he's going to go in, and I'm just, it's just one of those funny timing things to me.
Okay.
And Jim doesn't watch SmackDown, but I mean, here we are 9 months after Eddie Guerrero has passed
still
away.
The biggest star on SmackDown.
Yeah, he's the focal point of the show.
Now I got to say this, and this is because I watched SmackDown on Friday night. Okay, now that segment with Chavo Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and Vicky Guerrero
was the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
It was terrible. I mean terrible in the sense of Chavo Guerrero. I mean, unless Chavo Guerrero is the worst example of the best actor I've ever seen, he was so obvious. You know, it's like when he was reading those lines and trying to, you know, say how Rey Mysterio stole the Guerrero name and was living off of Eddie's name and stole Eddie's name from him. He said it with so little conviction. It was the least amount of conviction I think I've ever seen, to where I'm watching this, and I mean, 1 minute into it, I'm bored. By the time Ray comes out to fight him, I didn't care. And then, while you're in the segment where you don't care, there's Vicky Guerrero, like, breaking them up. And here's the worst part. I'm going to get...
Do you think maybe Chavo was not exactly thrilled with the lines he was delivering?
I thought...
Well, the thing that it was is everything that everybody has said about what a horrible person Vince McMahon is for what he's done to Eddie Guerrero's name after he passed away, all that heat is being transferred to Rey Mysterio.
No, but so Vicky Guerrero comes out, and all I could think of was just how out of place she looked. I mean, it's like you know, she's out there, and they're trying to make her glamorous, and I think that even made it worse.
Oh, that makes it worse.
Yeah,
Steamboat's glamorous wife.
I mean, she doesn't look like Bonnie Steamboat at all. Bonnie Steamboat, I personally thought Bonnie Steamboat was pretty darn glamorous. But I mean, nothing against her, but it's just like it was horrible, and it was like Rey Mysterio went, to me, from being the most over guy on that show to being in like the most unover feud imaginable. Even though, I mean, I bet the quarter hour will probably do well in ratings, just because it's one of those things where, you know, like that Randy Orton, they did a Hogan Knows Best on Monday, or Orton Knows Best. It was this horrible segment, and I knew it was going to do great in the ratings because that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like when you see the ambulances in the car crash and the stretchers, and it's like you're driving by, you do slow down and watch, you know, even though it's horrible. And that was, anyway, but that's, I just felt,
it's the two dog screwing syndrome.
Yeah, the thing on it too is Chavo came out and everybody wanted to hear, you know, why he turned on Ray, and for about a minute there, you know, people were into it, and then after that minute was up, it was like, you know, the people didn't care, and then that made it bad. And Chavo was, again, you know, when you see someone who you can tell doesn't want to do an angle, you know, and I mean, boy did he make it clear. Anyway, I saw the deal, the Cage of Death from Philadelphia, and I will say this: if you're into blood and gore and a really violent 40-minute war of a match, you should probably get the video. And if you're into really good angles, you should also get that DVD, which isn't out yet, but you know, it should be out in a couple weeks. But that deal at the end, you know, where you started the feud with Homicide, and I tell you what, like, there was something about it. You know, I think that between the crowd reaction and then Ring of Honor finally beating CZW, and, you know, take out the trash and all that, and then, you know, immediately in the high, I loved the way that angle came together. I really, you know, I mean, a lot of people didn't, because, you know, they're tired of the heel authority figure.
Well, you know, but see, that's where everybody is making the misassumption I'm not a heel authority figure. I happen to be really pissed off at Homicide.
Yeah.
And, if they want to take Homicide's side, then they can go piss off as well. But if everything is just as it was, as long as they still like me better than him, it's simple. No reason for anybody to get hurt. Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt.
Don't say it because because Billy Gunn says that. Anyway, I'm going to actually go from the bottom of the alphabetical order because we're actually we've got an hour left, but I've seen this. We're not going to get through all the names, and I want to get through some of the names that we didn't get through last week with J.J. Dillon and Larry Madison. So I'm going to ask you about Jesse Ventura.
God, I don't believe I voted for him, but I wouldn't begrudge somebody to. He wasn't a great worker in the ring. He was a great performer. He was colorful. He went on to great things. I mean, he's a totally different animal. You just have to kind of judge him for being Jesse Ventura.
He was an interesting Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
I mean,
he did Jesse Ventura well.
Yeah, he did it better than Billy Graham. That's what Billy Graham used to always say. He's like, I guess Vern Gagne called him up one day. He goes, "Superstar, I've got a guy who does superstar better than you."
I think it was just Ventura got more national television. So they hadn't seen the superstar deal.
A lot of this, when you really look back at a lot of guys, don't you think that like a lot of like your stardom and everything is when you were in the right place at the right time? I mean, in the sense of like 80s Crockett, 80s WWE, for whatever reason, like those 80s were so much stronger than the early 90s that those guys in the 80s everyone remembers.
It's because guys had matured in the business then and were experienced at being on top more often than not, or if they hadn't broken through, they were still experienced. They had been from place to place, and the guys that started coming up on top in the 90s came out of the more or less factory fast food system. If it wasn't WWF, it was WCW.
Yeah.
And so there's a sameness that permeates the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is what it was. And I think that a lot of the guys from the 70s, if they'd had the benefit of the stronger cable and the national television, would have gotten over. I mean, but look at Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. He took wrestling promos and did them better than the wrestlers in a lot of cases, and got over to be the biggest star in the world with it.
Yeah.
Because he got the television.
Yeah.
Nobody ever heard Joe Louis talk.
Well, he wasn't that good.
Exactly. Joe Louis was not a good promo.
He was not a good promo, but I guess
it's the first one that gets seen with the promo, with the rap, as Superstar would say.
Yeah. Roy Shire.
So there you have it.
What do you think of Roy Shire?
Oh
well.
I think once again, I think I voted. I guess for him and Jerry Jarrett. I think in that category. I can't remember, but once again, these guys ran successful, territories. In Shire's case, a major league territory in San Francisco. In Jarrett's case, the only regional that managed to actually stay in business. All those years, innovated different things, great tag teams. I think those two guys would have to be in.
Okay, so Jerry Jarrett. I mean, Jerry Jarrett's the wrestling you grew up on.
Yeah, I mean, not just because of that. When you look at who else had a track record of being a booker, not only in Tennessee in his own territory, but also in Atlanta. For Barnett, he did sell out the Omni. His wrestling career best left unmentioned, but he was on top.
Yeah.
And actually was over. See, that was in the days when the guys that were pushed actually got over, regardless whether they should or not. So he was over with the people. George Goulas changed that trend. And, and then his booking was tremendous in the territory on and off. He kept it on keel for 15 years or whatever. And plus he was the promoter. He owned the thing. I mean, I don't see how he can't be.
Okay, Don Owen.
Don Owen only because I think Jarrett and Shire should be in first. Don Owen ran longer than anybody, but Portland was really never a major money territory. It was good for the guys, the Pipers and the Savages and the Moondog Mains, who really went there and concentrated on it. They made money, but it wasn't a place where you went to become a big star in the mainstream.
What about Lou Albano?
I like Captain Lou, but You know, once again, well, I guess maybe I'm mad at him because he and James Dudley got my place in the WWF Hall of Fame. So I'm trying to exact some kind of revenge here now. I mean, I think I should have edged James Dudley. But, you know, but that was me.
A lot of people should have.
I didn't see the count.
Okay. Tim Woods.
Once again, he was a guy who main evented territories known for good wrestling and weekly shows, and for long periods of time was a good performer, made an impact with the mask, wasn't a fireball promo, but still made an impact as personality with the mask, so I think yes.
You think so? What about Johnny Walker then?
Well, the same thing, because you had not only the great rivalry when they split them up, but also one would be in Florida, one would be in Georgia, one would be in the Carolinas, one would be wherever the case. Wrestling too later on in Louisiana, he was a great worker. He was a great talker, underrated, and he headlined in territories noted for good wrestling for longer periods of time. So I think, you know, both of them really made an impact, and they were a great tag team. I wanted to grab Kerry Von Erich real quick.
That's what we were actually going to go to, but go ahead.
Yeah, because, you know, before the break we mentioned his name. Here's the problem, and I don't want anybody to think I'm beating up on Kerry Von Erich, can't defend himself, but in 1984, he's one of the biggest babyfaces in the business, could be the next Hulk Hogan or a guy, certainly the next Piper, whatever the case may be, a wealthy man, a young man at 24, 25 years old, and then 5 years later, he's unemployed, he's got drug problems, he's got marital problems, he's got legal problems. And 2 or 3 years after that, he commits suicide. It's almost, that should be held up to the younger guys in this business. For every great guy who saves his money and has a happy family, Mick Foley, the Kerry Von Erich happens a lot more often. I think that he should be talked about, and that case should be held up to show guys, but is it egregious to put him in the Hall of Fame, considering that was his career?
I mean, you know, when I wrote the thing, you know, and when I wrote the thing on Texas Wrestling a couple of weeks ago.
That's what made me think about it.
Well, you know, here's something. You were there during that period, or actually, you were there a year after the good years. But
well, actually, no. 83 to 85 were the good years, and we were there the first part of 85, so it was still jumping.
Okay, so but
I know. You know, the level of commitment those people had to the Von Erichs was ridiculous.
Yeah. But I mean, and I lived there, and I mean, it's like they were a huge deal, but to me, it was not. Again, I don't think he was good enough for long enough. I would call him a Hall of Famer.
That's the thing. It's more about what he should have been and didn't get to be. That is, and so is that Hall of Fame vote worthy?
To me, no. You know, I couldn't. I mean, it's like if he was what he should have been, I mean, he probably would have been. But I mean, the fact is, you know, by 86, I mean, he really was nothing anymore. You know, and
it was really it's a shame.
Really, it's
better than just to be able to work for his dad. He would have been a star everywhere.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's the whole story is just incredible. I mean, it's, you know, no one would ever believe it if you told it to them unless they lived through it, like you know, like we did. You know, I mean, Brian, what was, you know, again, I mean, I know that you know the story, but when you were, you know, because the Von Erichs came before you were a wrestling fan, you started hearing those stories. I mean, how as someone who did live through the era, what was kind of like your reaction to the Von Erich stories?
Well, I just, you know, I heard about all the stories and the deaths and everything like that, but I'd seen very little of the footage. I'd obviously seen the Flair, Kerry Von Erich title change and that sort of thing, but I just watched the first 2 hours of the DVD last week, and I'm going to watch the final hour after this show. But just watching it, it is exactly what you said. It's one of those stories where you can't even believe that something like this actually really happened. and just all the crazy characters, Fritz, I mean, just real people that really behaved like this. And it's just fascinating.
Oh, and I was there in Fort Worth the night of the 60-minute draw.
You were there?
Between that was actually my first night in the Will Rogers.
I never talked to you about that. I didn't know you were there.
It wasn't my first night. We did TV there one time, but it was my second night. New Year's Eve, 84, or New Year's Day, one or the other. It was New Year's, 84, 85, and yeah, they were looking for him 5 minutes before the match, and he was out in the cattle chutes, is where the guys used to park their cars. And so I remember that they actually did air part of the match on television, because I waited and watched the next Saturday night.
Only like a minute or two, though.
Oh, no, like about 10 minutes, they still went that far.
Did they really? I mean, because I remember...
What they did, they did a voiceover with Kerry entering the arena, and the place was sold out. That's the only sellout in the 6 months I was there that I ever saw in Will Rogers Coliseum.
Yeah.
They voiceovered that Kerry had a 104-degree fever that day and a bad flu, but he didn't want to lose his shot at Flair and disappoint his fans, so he was wrestling with a 104-degree fever and whatever the case may be. Flair goes to hip toss him one time, and Kerry's right foot never left the mat. He just threw his left leg up and wallowed over sideways. And then he gets the hammerlock on Flair and does the deal where handstand, drop the knee on the arm. But when he did the handstand, he overbalanced and just went all the way over on his own. Boom, flat of his back.
Okay, I got to ask you this question. As somebody who was there and saw all of this, okay, for a casual fan that watches wrestling, I mean, how many picked up on that sort of thing? I mean, was it pretty obvious that...
You know what? Here's the thing. If you will notice, when wrestling is hot, it can look as crummy as you can possibly make it, and it will still get over. And when it's not hot, you can beat the piss out of each other, and nobody cares. This was so hot, they knew something was wrong, but they were more than perfectly willing to buy the fever when they heard it on television, because they didn't want to think anything else.
Yeah.
So and once again, then they came back and had great matches, after that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, it was bizarre. Flair came in, I think the exact words as he threw the belt at Ken Mantell were, "You work with him the rest of the week." It's 6 more nights to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that Flair had to put up with were insane.
Yeah, can you imagine? Jeez.
But he's already in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So.
John Tolis.
I never saw enough of him, especially, obviously there's no way to see his run in California with Blassie before videotape could be traded. I couldn't tell you, I never saw enough of him, but I mean, of course, the Los Angeles deal with Blassie in the magazines, he could have been one of the 10 greatest wrestlers in the world as far as they were concerned.
You know, the thing with him that I was thinking of during one of the commercial breaks, and when I looked at the name, is if you took Fred Blassie away, nobody would really know John Tolis. That's true.
I'm
not saying he was a star in the Tolis Brothers, and he was a good veteran wrestler. And I mean, as someone who grew up with him, he was an incredible promo. But if you take the Freddie Blassie stuff away, I mean, he's absolutely not, to me, a Hall of Fame wrestler. He's just not.
The Tolis Brothers in Toronto, maybe Buffalo, etc. But it would be more like if Crusher Lasowski had never stopped teaming with Art Nelson.
I guess.
He went on to be a bigger name after the brothers, but still only regionally in certain parts of the country, and only hooked up with Blassie for the big run. And a great promo, right?
Yeah. I'm going to go. Our lines have been lit up since the start of the show, so I want to get to a couple of calls. So we will start, and then we'll go back to some Hall of Fame stuff. We're going to start with Dave in Texas. Dave, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, Mr. Cornette, I'm a big, long-time fan.
So you're the one.
A lot in OVW.
He's watching.
I'm sorry, what did you say last?
I'm sorry, I said I'm a big fan of you, and I miss you a lot in OVW.
Oh, in OVW. Well,
we all do.
I think you and Kenny Bolin are probably the only ones.
Hey, I got a question.
Go ahead.
I saw on the internet, like a little clip of Jim Cornette, like cussing at a drive-through or something. What's the story
Every
with
show
that?
I do for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
Never escape it.
Yeah.
But you can go to rohvideos.com and get the shoot interview where I describe it in detail.
Okay, we're going to go. Anything you want to add on that, Jim, before we go?
Yeah, but I still love Dairy Queen.
Okay. We're going to go to Joe in Indiana. Joe, what's going on?
Hello?
Hello there.
Hey, I was thinking about how everyone's got a wrestling book. How come Jim Cornette don't have no wrestling book?
I'm obsessive compulsive, and I always write things down that I think will go in it one of these days, but since I'll never stop coming up with things to put in it, I'll never actually write it.
I just think that'd be the best book of all. I mean, everybody and their sisters writing wrestling books.
Well, yeah, see, that's what everybody says it'd be the best book of all time, so I have to make it perfect, so that means I'll never stop coming up, oh, yeah, I got to put that in, got to put that in. I'll end up with a box of notes and no actual book. But it'll probably go something along those lines.
You need an audio book.
Yeah, book on tape or something.
Well, I'm actually a better author for the blind. That would be much easier to take.
Yeah. Okay, anything else, Joe?
Well, I saw something where Mark Madden is on some kind of shit list.
Oh. Mark Madden.
What did Mark Madden do?
Oh, what didn't he do?
It's too long of a list.
That's too long of a list also, but he drew breath. He drew breath as his major offense in my life. But I'm on a program where I'm trying not to be nasty about people.
Jim, I want to ask you about Sting.
That I puzzled and labored over, and I almost think at this point that he will be in, and it's just that I think it's too soon. He's not finished yet. He never really got that opportunity, unfortunately, to prove what he could do, except for the pay-per-view buy rate with Hogan that they, obliterated when they messed the whole deal up. So I think he should have drawn more than he did, but I don't think it was necessarily his fault.
As someone who saw, basically his whole career, and, he was a huge star, and certainly like in WCW, always one of the top, couple of guys, and at times the top guy. I don't know what it is, but I based on all the wrestlers that I've seen over the course of my lifetime, I mean, I know he's a bigger star in many ways than people who are in, but I just can't put him above other people, on this ballot.
Well,
I don't think he was that. I don't think he was that great. I think that he had a great look, and he had some charisma. But I mean, like it's like Hulk Hogan, okay, who was not a great athletic worker. But I mean, he's so good as a drawing card that obviously you can't. It's not even a thought process. He's in. Whereas Sting, he doesn't turn the corner for me as being someone who is that great.
Well, I think part of it is if you think, and Bret Hart's kind of an asterisk, but even then not on a. Sting always wrestled for WCW, always. The only other stuff to be available would be like, Memphis or the Power Pro stuff, Mid-South, whatever.
He was in Mid-South early on, yeah.
So people, I don't think because he didn't face the wide variety of opponents, because he didn't go to more than one company or ever really establish a presence in Japan otherwise than the WCW shows, I think that hampered him.
Isn't that going to sort of hamper a lot of guys nowadays?
Everyone nowadays is going to, you're pretty much going to be one company guys. Because,
that's actually what hampers everybody nowadays.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think that there should be something there that says to me he's got it, and it's like and there's no question that he's close, but I just don't see what puts him. I can't come up with something that puts him over the top other than. He was always pushed, and he was reasonably good, but I mean, he was great when he was in with great people, but you can say that for a lot of guys.
Never delivered to how hard he was pushed.
Well, remember he was tied to a company that was that sucked for 5 years straight.
Maybe longer. Well,
straight, and certainly more years unconsecutively.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think that hurt him.
Management-wise, it sucked almost its entire run.
Yeah.
I mean, there were periods where there was some good wrestling. Actually a lot of periods where there was good wrestling, but I don't know. I as someone, who watched him, I don't feel Hall of Fame from him. I mean, other than, he was always pushed, and I mean, I can't say that he didn't deserve it, but at the same time, he didn't take the bull by the horns and run with it like other guys who, like an Eddie Guerrero, as just an example, when Eddie Guerrero did more with less opportunity with far less opportunity than Sting. I mean, Sting was handed a spot in the sense because he got over at the right time when the company was being sold, and they decided that he was going to be their franchise. But yet he never really, he had good matches with Ric Flair, and Vader and many people, but they never were that big, giant, special thing that we think of as a Hall of Fame guy.
Yeah, he may be a separate tier, just one step down.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like my thought. Now, Jimmy Snuka was someone who, if you grow up in New York, I mean, that guy is such a big deal. Yet, like you and I, who grew up in other parts of the country, actually saw guys who flew. I don't want to say. I mean, I saw guys.
Well, but at the same time, before he went to New York, especially when he was in the Carolinas, because see, I got to see him live as a heel in Cincinnati when Crockett ran Cincinnati. We would go up to the Gardens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw him as a babyface at the Cow Palace with Buddy Rose and all that too.
So, as a performer, he wasn't just about the super splash off the top and bad WWF style matches. I mean, the way he moved like a cat to me. I mean, take promos completely out of it. Never a good one, obviously. But no, he was a cat, and what a physical specimen. And as a heel, he appealed to me as the wild man. But as a babyface, he was one of the biggest drawn baby faces of the early '80s. I think he's got to be and innovated a move, et cetera, et cetera. Was on top for a good period of time. Should have been longer, but
he's another one like Kerry Von Erich, where he was his own worst enemy. In some ways.
I think that at least he actually accomplished a lot of what he was able to do, because remember his age at that point, he wasn't going to get any better.
Yeah.
So at least unlike Kerry, he got a chance to do pretty well all that he was going to do at a top level, which was pretty strong.
Davey Boy Smith.
Boy, once again, he started so young, people forget, but by the time that he was 30, Davey was not doing well.
Yeah, he had all those injuries.
Because of the style and everything, so he never really got a chance to headline for any period or length of time as a single, but at the same time, he didn't spend the majority of his career in the Bulldogs as a tag team, so I don't, without the injuries and the problems and everything, I think he could have done better. And if Sting isn't in, Davey isn't in.
Yeah, Sergeant Slaughter.
I think once again, as far as work, definitely. As far as the gimmick, he was iconic with the crossover to G.I. Joe before most wrestlers did that kind of thing. To mainstream, not even mainstream fans, but just people at the mall, if you asked who is Sergeant Slaughter during that one period of time, chances are they would have known. It was a great performer and drew money. Was big enough that he left Vince, even though it didn't work out that time.
Yeah.
So I think he would have to be.
Okay. Mas Saito.
Saito was on some of the Japanese tapes when I first, 1980, started getting Japanese tapes, and from 80 through 84, I watched them real heavy until I just had no time because of the business. And he did so much after that, I wouldn't want to grade him on what I know.
Okay. He was one of the, I'm trying to think about this. Of the real Japanese guys, he probably did better in the States than, Mas Saito and Muda were probably the two ones who actually really got over.
Yeah. And Saito, he did work a lot here, but he was never in a position, to me, in the United States that he would be past the Dick Murdoch Hall of Fame.
No.
But in Japan, with what he did.
In Japan, I sort of saw him at the Dick Murdoch level. Right. That's pretty much at the same level. Not higher, but there at that. What about Rick Rude?
I can't remember whether I voted for him or not this time around, which if I didn't, it was probably just because of I ran out of picks. But once again, he didn't get a chance to headline a long period of time, but he did great business while he was on top. And he did turn out to be a good heel performer. But once again, maybe if Sting's not in, maybe Rude's not in. I don't know.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Express. I already know you can vote for them.
Well, the thing is, and see, I'm not politicking for myself because I'm already in. But the Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express, everywhere the program was presented, whether it be Louisiana, whether it be Crockett, the NWA, TBS, whatever, when it was featured as the top tag team program, it not only drew, oftentimes sold out. I mean, I know that's an old, a wrestler's exaggeration. The place was sold out, but a lot of times it was sold out. The matches were state-of-the-art. The angles on television were entertaining. People still remember. They go see it 20 years later, in the same territory just because they liked it so good the first time around. once again, tag teams to me are underrepresented, and I'm not just laboring for my guys, but how can you, if there's going to be tag teams in, those guys have qualifications.
James in Tallahassee. James, what's going on?
Hey, guys, how are you doing? It's an honor to be on with you, James.
Thank you.
Big honor. Couple of questions. The first one being, do you think tomorrow night that they're going to badmouth Joe Lieberman the day before the Senate election, like they did the last time?
I don't think they're even aware of it.
Well, they should be, because one of their board of directors, Lowell Weicker, is very involved in the campaign against him.
Well, well, I don't think that they're going to do that. But.
They're not, but still. But the other question I had is in reference to the Hall of Fame and drug use. As we get into...
That's an interesting one, because I was thinking about, a couple days ago, thinking about this, like with the Baseball Hall of Fame, so many of these guys, because, Barry Bonds, who's the best player of our era, there are many writers who have said that they will not vote for Barry Bonds because he took steroids, and of course, if that was the case here, then I'm not saying nobody would get in, because Mick Foley would still be in.
They're small.
And so would Jim, but that is about it.
It'd be a smaller group.
But I mean, like, in other sports, that stuff is held against you, and in this one, it's almost like it.
Yeah.
I think you got to make the distinction, because after whether anybody wants to say, I'm for it, against it, or on the fence, whatever. The fact is, in a sport where the idea is to set a record, achieve some type of measurement or goal or whatever, yes, I think obviously that should be a detriment to the Hall of Fame. But in a sport which is about performance and is almost performance art, so much of it is psychological, so much of it is emotional, whether somebody sells tickets, even if they do have the body, I don't know, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because even guys like Billy Graham would be affected by it if that were the case.
No, you can't.
And Billy Graham is Billy Graham. How can you have a Hall of Fame without him?
Well, I mean, forget it, Billy Graham. Hulk Hogan's the biggest star in the history of the business.
Exactly.
And there wouldn't be among the top guys. I mean, I'm not saying that there would, of the modern era guys from, let's say, 1980 on, I'm not saying that, everyone that's in the Hall of Fame, but almost everyone at some point or another, but then again, you can almost say the same thing about baseball. The only thing with baseball is that the guys who get caught really get fried, and in wrestling, if you get caught or admit it, it's not really held against you.
And once again, the guys that are using steroids to achieve the record still have an inordinate amount of skill at that sport anyway, but it's still about measuring and records and scoring instead of performing. And so I think it's a byproduct of nobody's getting in because of their look. So if they don't draw, if they don't perform, whatever, they may not get voted in to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you guys go, but before that, what impressed me this week was how quickly the federal investigators got the search warrant for Monday, after they planted the cigars from the magistrate, And
then they forgot to bring the evidence to the police station. It was almost like that when they arrested Kerry Von Erich.
Bye, guys.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. All right, we're going to go to Richard in Florida. Richard, what's going on?
Hello?
Hello there.
I want to know, do you guys think Randy Orton's going to win this year's SummerSlam against Hulk Hogan?
No. I don't think so, but we don't even know if there's going to be a match. So we won't know until the middle of the week if there'll even be a match.
Don't bet the farm on young Orton.
Yeah. Okay?
All right.
All right, bye. I'm
glad he consulted us before he made that wager.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to Dean in Brooklyn. Dean, what's going on?
Oh, hello, Mr. Meltzer. Hi, Mr. Cornette.
Hello there.
How you doing? I just want to say, first off, I want to commend you on the stuff you do with Wrestling Observer for like 24 years. It's incredible, and with the amount of research and everything.
Yeah, it's like almost like I never had a life.
I just can't imagine one person doing all that.
I can't either, and I do it.
Yeah, it's incredible for 24 years. I also want to tell Mr. Cornette, I grew up watching in the 90s when you managed Yokozuna. And I thought that was, you did a great
it's almost like I never had a life.
Don't you think it's kind of funny that, like all of the stuff, like, let's say in the 80s that you did that you're probably, like, really proud of, like in Mid-South Wrestling, and then someone brings up, when you managed, like, Yokozuna or wrestled Jose Lothario or something.
Exactly.
That
was funny, too. that was hilarious, too. I kind of remember that one with Jose Lothario.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to buy all the copies of the tape.
You beat up a senior citizen.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, my question is, I have a question actually from this week's Observer. It's regarding Trish Stratus and Lita.
Uh-huh.
And my question is, I realize...
What are you in a bathtub over there?
In a can?
Hello?
Hello, yes.
He's in a bomb shelter.
No.
It's an echo chamber for sure, though.
A parking garage.
No,
Where are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm actually at my law school, that's why.
Oh,
You're at law school.
Yeah.
That's your...
Well, Jay Loophole Cheever, let me know when you graduate. I'd love to.
Yeah, I'm not in a bomb shelter. I was just moving, like, to the second floor of the building, that's all.
Okay.
Nice.
I didn't want to disturb anybody.
Okay.
You're the stairwell flasher.
No. Nobody's there. My question is...
Yes, we're listening.
I know. My question is basically, I realize that Trish Stratus is leaving because she's getting married and she's possibly retiring. But I was confused about why Lita's leaving because I thought that with Trish out of the way, that she would probably get a bigger push and actually wrestle more.
I think that she just wants to go home. I mean, there's no, she may very well come back, but I mean, she's been on the road for years and years and years, and she saved her money, and it's like sometimes you just want to step away. Like Jim,
I can identify.
Jim is trying to step away, but they keep pulling him back.
Dragged back.
Yeah, that was just confusing because I know you wrote that she wants to get into acting, but I was like, that was confusing because I thought like this would be an opportunity for her maybe to break away from Edge and even maybe turn into a babyface. Because I know she's been stuck as a heel ever since the whole Matt Hardy thing.
Well, I believe me, I can identify. I think if she just wants to go home, if she wants to get into acting, like I just want to get into the recliner. But it's the same situation. I understand how she feels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that like, it's such a tough life, and she probably just said, look, I just need a break for a little while. I don't think there's anything more than that because it's not like there was any heat or anything like that. As far as like big problems with it. It's just her contract's up, and she just said she needs a break.
Oh, so do you think there's a good chance she will be coming back? I mean, I know Trish might not if she has children.
Nobody.
I think there's going to be a huge angle where Lita jumps Trish and beats her children over the head while Trish has to watch for WrestleMania 2012.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone who retires, I mean, with very few exceptions, they do end up coming back, even if it's just for a little while. So at some point, nothing would surprise me.
Jack Briscoe finally came back. Took like 13 years.
Yeah.
He made an appearance, but he came back.
Yeah.
I just, like you said, as long as they're on good terms with like McMahon's and everything, so it's not like they're going to be like showing up in TNA. Or
well, you know what?
I tell you, it's when they're on bad terms.
No, you know what? The truth is that I think the odds of them coming back are better on bad terms because if you're on good terms, Vince just figures like, I can do whatever you want because, but if you're on bad terms, it becomes a challenge for Vince. Everyone who's been on the worst terms with Vince McMahon, those are the ones who get the phone calls all the time. I mean, geez, Bret Hart got it for like 7 straight years.
Oh, I understand.
I plan to test that theory.
Yeah, I think, honestly, Mr. Murphy, you're right. I mean, Bret Hart, I think he brought him back because he thought he could make some money with him, and he wanted
I think it was a challenge. I think it was a challenge as much as anything else. And, like Bruno Sammartino, you know what I mean? It's like I think that there's just the fact that they were so vehemently negative towards him that he felt the need to bring him back, or somebody like Bobby Heenan, who just is always nice to him. It's like, I'll bring Bobby back, like never. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
like at WrestleMania, I'll bring him back for a cameo, but these other guys, I need them. I mean, I need to get them back.
Yeah, but I mean, with Bret Hart, I can understand why Bret Hart has a vendetta against McMahon. I mean, let's not forget what happened to Owen Hart, which I thought was completely negligent. I mean, as a law student myself, that was horrible. Risking a guy's life like that, it was
well, they didn't know it at the time. I mean, I can give, but I mean, there was negligence involved in that was pretty bad, but,
I mean, to be honest, sir, if that was me and I was doing that, I would have had a stuntman do it, or else I would have had just Owen Hart run down and trip, and people want to laugh at him. But you don't put a human being on a wire on a ceiling. I mean, it was totally stupid, and if that was me, I can understand why he never want to work with Vince McMahon again.
Yeah.
You could have litigated that case.
That's right,
and possibly it could have come out better.
Yeah, that's all right. So I guess there's a chance that they might come back, like Trish and Lita, after a while, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If they choose to, and the time is right, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. No, not at all.
Are they going to bring up a democracy counselor?
But,
Are they going to bring up like new females for developmental just to add some actual?
well, I mean, look at the Diva Search. That's what it's there for. And Jim has dealt with many of those women.
Yeah, I know that.
Or United can just look through a swimwear catalog and people around.
They're not too good at all. And I agree with you, Mr. Cornette, about that guy Johnny Ace. I mean, I agree with you 100%. That guy doesn't know what he's doing, for crying out loud.
Okay. Now that we got
If you see a girl in a catalog and you want to see her on WWF television, just mail the picture, tear it out, and mail it to Florida.
Wanted to ask you about Paul Orndorff and Latasha Marzola. I don't know why I brought those two names up together.
Well, I think one of them definitely should make it, and the other two, Orndorff, once again, great performer, drew huge gates with Hogan, but also was big in Mid-South, was prominent in the Carolinas, was used well, a number of places, WCW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He was a good performer. He drew big when he was on top. He had longevity. I think he's a guy that should make it.
Okay.
Natasha, nah.
What did you think the first time you saw her?
Oh my God! I thought it was a cartoon. I really did. And I'm thinking, how in the world is she ever going to fall and not bounce back to her feet?
I remember the first time I saw her on the show. I was like, I didn't even know what to think. It was like such an exaggerated person.
And fortunately, they called her up about 2 weeks after I put her on television, so we didn't have to see much of her.
Yeah,
God bless her.
And then she was gone.
And then she was. Didn't they call her up and then she was gone?
I don't remember ever seeing her on that show, but maybe.
Okay, maybe I don't know. But, well, that's the level of talent that they oftentimes call up. So I was,
What is it like? Make you like when someone comes in there? Because I know you must have had the discussion with people 100 times that there's people who could go up there with a couple of years and start off and almost start off at the top, but instead they bring them up and force them you know what I mean, and push them, and then they don't get over because they're not ready experience wise to be over.
Well, that's why I have these bald spots.
Yeah.
From tearing my hair out, and you try to. I mean, and it's not just about the people they pulled up from OVW. When Dan Severn was going to come in, I hand wrote a 10-page list of things that Dan Severn should and should not do to get over, and it's almost like and sent it to Vince Russo for all the good that did. It's almost like they worked it in reverse. Everything I said he shouldn't do, they had him do, and everything that I said would get him over, they never let him do.
Yeah.
And so it's not just developmental now. They want to prove people right when they didn't see talent originally. By God, we'll show you he can't get over it. I don't know. I have no explanation.
Okay, we're going to go to Aaron in Alabama. Aaron, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much.
Yeah, I want to say hi to Mr. Cornette. Good to see another Louisville native doing good always.
Well, thank you.
But I want to say I'm a big tag team wrestling fan, so of course I'm a big fan of Mr. Cornette. And just kind of, y'all were talking about the Hall of Fame stuff earlier, and just kind of looking at the way tag team wrestling is now. Do you even see any team like now that'll one day be Hall of Fame worthy, or is it just that era of wrestling is just died? It's like there's no hope for it.
There's no one now, because if somebody was going to be good enough before they would get to that level, they'd be broken up and feuding with each other.
Yeah, I mean, a team like America's Most Wanted, performance-wise, could make the criteria. Will they ever get a chance to work on top and draw money? Probably not. Most people won't. Not because of their talent or ability, just because most people won't get a chance to work on top and draw money. And also, are they going to be together in 5 years to have any longevity as a great tag team in a variety of places? Probably not, because there are no places. So it's kind of tough now. I mean, yeah, in 10 years, who are we going to be voting for?
I don't anticipate any, aside from the tag teams on the ballot now, which would be Rock and Roll and Midnight Express, and I think, the Assassins and the Andersons, I don't anticipate anyone else in tag team not at least not United States. I mean, and even Mexico, I really don't anticipate any tag teams.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just like I'm a big TNA fan. I know since Jim's been there's been a bit more of an emphasis on the tag team. It seems like that division's getting a little bit of a boost.
LAX has a good act. You know, I mean...
Yeah, and you know, Styles and Daniels are tremendous in the ring, and LAX looks great and is a different type of combination. So, you know, but once again, in 5 years, can they stay together? Is the company going to dictate that they do something else?
I don't think there's any chance for Styles and Daniels, and I think they have such high hopes for Homicide. And I think I read somewhere in Deserve they're already looking to bring in a third guy for LAX.
Ricky Banderas?
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Yeah.
Drat, I didn't write that memo.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to James in Toronto. James, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Just a couple quick questions. Number one, when is Chris Benoit come back?
September, October, maybe?
No chance he'd replace
No, he just had hernia surgery, so he's not ready to come back.
Okay. And I don't know if you guys covered this earlier, but what about any thoughts on Jeff Hardy?
Oh, how about that?
Jeff Hardy. I wrote like 3 pages on Jeff Hardy 2 days ago. So the basic gist is that I just think that, you know, I mean, I just think that there's something missing, like some central authority missing in this business, and it's allows people to continually screw up and always get another shot. If Jeff Hardy had gone to TNA and he had never no-showed, I would think it would be wonderful that WWE gave him another chance. But that didn't happen. And then the fact that they gave him another chance until, again, and I'm not saying just because he screwed up in TNA he should never get another chance. I'm just saying I think that you need to prove yourself, and he hasn't done that yet. And to hire someone like that, I mean, we've seen the career of Scott Hall, and it's like, you know, every time the companies make the same mistake over and over and over again, and then they go, well, he screwed up, and it's like, sooner or later, you screwed up. Right. You know what I mean? I mean,
the
it's
fact
like,
that the WWE...
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
yeah.
The WWE.com article, when they were talking about his return, it made the comment that we've been trying to contact him for 2 days for a comment, and he's been unavailable. I thought, oh boy.
Yeah, and it's like again, like, you know, somebody I've had people like say, well, what about Eddie Guerrero? And you know, the difference was when Eddie Guerrero got fired, Eddie Guerrero went to Japan, Eddie Guerrero worked Indies, and Eddie Guerrero went to Europe. Everywhere he went, he got high marks. He had great matches, and at that point, when WWE, you know, hired him back, it was like, yeah, he deserves another chance because he proved something. But and if Jeff Hardy goes and does that, wonderful. I hope he's clean, and I hope nothing bad happens. But I'm just saying, when you haven't proven in the last job that you had, you no-showed not 1 but 2 pay-per-views and many television tapings. I mean, what does that say? You know, I mean, it's like it's obviously wrestling's not that high on its priorities. And in WWE, if wrestling isn't high on your priorities, you're going to be in trouble because that schedule and the politics are just too hard. I mean, like, if he didn't like the TNA politics, you know what I mean, and he didn't like the TNA schedule working 3 days a month, imagine going there with the politics. He's going to deal with 100 times worse politics, and he's going to be working constantly. And I just, you know, I don't consider it a good risk. So, anyway, I want to get your opinion on Ivan Koloff.
Ivan Koloff, I think, was a great talent, but I'm not sure that he headlined as a single long enough or was identified in a tag team long enough. Maybe he's the Russian Murdoch.
I mean, I always, you know, growing up and everything, I always consider Ivan Koloff a pretty darn big star. You know, I mean, like, you know, in the AWA with Superstar Graham and, you know, obviously beating Bruno.
Well, and true, and he was a tremendous performer in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, maybe above Dick.
I don't know. I mean, I consider him pretty much at the same level.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, you know, one of the most underrated tag teams in my mind, because we always talk about Gene and Ole. I always liked Ole Anderson and Ivan Koloff more than Gene and Ole. I mean, because I just thought, because Ivan was always
in such a good team.
Because Ivan was in such good condition and Ole did the talking, and I just thought that they were, you know, they just came off as two, you know, like nasty, great heels, you know, especially, I remember in the Georgia days with like Tommy Rich and Wahoo McDaniel and people like that.
You know,
and Dusty, of course.
At the Capital Wrestling Legends Fan Fest.
Ivan Koloff.
At the Doubletree Hotel in Rockville, Maryland, August 11th through 13th. Go to CapitalLegends.com. I got all of Greg's plugs in, but no, Ivan Koloff will be there as well.
Yeah. But I mean, I just remember, you know, like all through the 70s when I saw him, he was, you know, he was pretty much, you know, a superstar in the business, I thought. So
maybe he, like I said, he's Murdoch level or beyond.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have voted for Ivan this year instead of and given him the Murdoch vote.
Yeah. Anyway, we are totally out of time, Jim. This was a pleasure. And
thank you. Whoever gets in, I hope vote Midnight Express. Vote the Midnight Express.
Vote for Lalo. Anyway, later. Okay, we'll see everybody next week. We'll be covering the TNA pay-per-view live as it happens. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.